All right, so here we are out at the street, looking back up towards the side yard. If you take a look down in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see a white hard pipe exiting that runs up to the back corner of the property. And down on the left, you see another exit, and that is actually the buried line from the gutter downspouts. Original plan was to dig a new line all the way to the street. I cleared all the rock off of this path. However, while clearing all this rock, I ended up running into a buried line, which is this guy. Don't know exactly what they were thinking with the PVC connection to it. Maybe a way to kind of run a hose down it and try and clear it out. But it's a 3-inch Corex line, and that is what runs out to the gutters. So I ended up trenching it to kind of follow the line, see where it took us. What we decided is that instead of trenching all the way back out to the street, we're going to tie in to the line right here. So we'll throw a Y on, and then we trenched out up to this location, which is where we're going to put a catch basin. And then you can see the French drain running through the yard, splitting off and heading up. So just to kind of give you an overall side of the house, the garage, and the shop. French drain runs through. That old hard line runs right along this fence, and there's an input up there where it meets that other yard. The neighbor's yard floods, and so it fills up and runs down that line. Our yard has been flooding primarily here where we're putting the catch basin, and then also tends to flood over here on the side, which is why we added this spur. The rain barrels are set up so that they have an overflow that runs down and into where the old gutter ran, and it is a bottom exit. But if you look in here, it's actually a pipe that I installed that fills up to the top. So that way it's just a little cleaner look. You don't have to have the pipe running out of the top of the pipe, or at the top of the barrel. It runs out of the bottom instead. Ran into this 3-inch Corex pipe running to, I have no idea where. It's headed off basically in the direction of the upper yard. There's nothing up there that I know of. All I can think of is that maybe there used to be a catch basin of some kind or an inflow up there. Take a look up here and you'll see we have a huge hill behind us, and as a result, and especially since they've apparently cut down a number of really big Doug firs that used to be up there, if you look in this direction, you can see that the hills over here still have a bunch. But as this area has been developed, they've cut those out, and so the water has increased, and it pushes its way through, ends up coming out of the ground. It would pool up here along the side of the shop, and then it would work its way down the hill and flood the bottom of the yard. So we've trenched it out. It's pretty wide, it's pretty deep. Hoping that it works well. We're going to obviously put perforated pipe in there. And the little spur is just because that was another low spot. So we'll have a small 6-inch catch basin over here that will run through. It'll all be perforated until it reaches this large catch basin here, and then it will be solid pipe running into that solid pipe. I have a little bit of a concern. I'm hoping that the 3-inch pipe running out to the street with the gutters and the French drain can handle the capacity. But worst case scenario, we end up digging it from here on and just putting a solid pipe of its own all the way down to the street. We bought 3 yards of river rock, which being in the Pacific Northwest was nice and cheap. Basically the same price as the majority of rock, so we went that way. And it's been out here getting rained on, getting washed a little bit. So next step, we will be putting in fabric and basically wrapping the rock in fabric. So the corrugated pipe will run inside the rock, and the fabric will wrap entirely around the rock to help keep debris out of that rock field. Alright, I'm going to work on giving you a little bit of a trench eye perspective on this one. Get you down in there, see what's going on before we get any fabric or rock in. Took a lot of time. We dug all of this by hand. As you'll be able to see from the obstructions, it was pretty much required. So that'll give you some idea. And working our way along, up next to the shop, we run into the water line. A couple nice worms. You can see that it's already getting saturated down in the bottom here. It's going to go up and down a little bit. Unfortunately, the grade is not perfect because of the roots, but the water should find its way along regardless. And being perforated pipe, it can always leach back out from the pipe into the rock and then back into the pipe again. It doesn't have to be as perfect as a solid line. Nice big fat root here. 3-inch solid pipe coming out from 3 gutters on the garage and the shop. You can see where we knocked it loose from the Y, just stuck a rag in there to keep it from getting dirty. Another big set of roots here. We actually ended up digging a little wider to the right to try and get around them. You can see here where we cracked this one while digging before we knew it was even there. So we're going to put a 3-inch coupler, internal coupler on that. Tie it back together, make sure it's good to go. Another kind of nasty root. This one's not in a very good spot. And then that line coming through, I have no idea what that is. Eventually into the large hole for the catch basin. And then it'll be solid pipe till it meets the 3-inch line coming from the gutters. Ties into that and then heads down to the street. A little side note, we had originally intended to put solid line in for this French drain, partly because it's a little more durable, especially if you're going to run like a roto-rooter down it to clean it out, but we ended up deciding to go with flexible line, and that's primarily because there's so many obstructions in here that we just felt like we needed to be able to kind of bend and flux. And also watched a few videos on people using snakes to clean out Corex pipe. Chuck with Apple Drains has some really good videos, and he talks about how it's really not true that those pipes will get eaten up. So that's the way we're going. You're gonna have to back up if you're gonna be able to see the whole thing.
Oh, that thing is coming out. Can I chop that?
We've actually started putting fabric down and rock today. Got these 3 bad boys, root wads, and those came out of these existing pipes here. And you can see now we've laid some fabric down. Because we've been working around all these pieces, we've had to make cuts, and it's been working pretty well so far. So you can see we've just kind of been slicing around objects, using the bricks to hold things in place. We've got river rock down, and that's our second pipe. So our first pipe here is now totally filled, and that runs up to that small catch basin, so it's got rock under and over it. So what we've been doing here is spreading rock and then rinsing it, because it's pretty dirty. As soon as we dig underneath a little bit, there's quite a bit of debris on it, and we're trying to keep as much of that out as possible. So we've been raking it down with a metal rake so that it's flat, and then spraying it off and then transferring it to the back. Okay, all the rock is in. Final video before we fold the cloth over and replace the sod. So we've got the 6-inch round catch basin here. Working our way down. Board that we used to get the wheelbarrow across for a few final dumps over here. That corrugated pipe is the solid pipe coming from the gutters. The perforated is below it, then running up to another 6-inch catch basin, and then back along here. The piece that was damaged we tried to repair with some silicone. May or may not work, but should be okay. Any leaking that happens will get caught by the French drain. And then that's the end of the fabric, and then we tie in here to another catch basin. That's a 9-inch square, and then exiting from that with solid perforated pipe, which runs into the Y over here. So we bought 3 yards, and I'd say we probably didn't even use 2 yards. So still have a pretty good pile of rock out here. All the fabric is now folded over, and in places like this where there was joints or not quite enough overlap, everything gets doubled up. So we cut pieces, laid them on top. Brick's just holding it down for the moment till we get dirt and sod back on there. Got rock around that catch basin. And started to backfill some dirt. So we worked until almost 10 o'clock last night, finishing putting all the sod in. Put these 3 bricks back in, and if you look, you can see where the sod is in better condition than the grass that was around it. It took quite a bit of work to get the dirt right under it so that it wasn't too high or too low. It's still pretty lumpy in some spots, but we did our best. Hopefully it smooths out a little over time. There's a little perspective on the tools that we used. So we used a variety of hand tools for the job. You can also see things got a little muddy last night. Lots of mud stuck on the boots. And we ended up basically using all of the various shovels that we purchased for the job. And they all actually performed quite well, and you can see that this True Temper shovel in the middle got the most use last night. Pretty filthy. But they all did a different job. They were all very useful. We didn't use the tamper too much, actually, just a little bit. And we did use the pry bar. That's something that we had from before for getting these pavers up. Wheelbarrows were very useful. This 2-wheeled one was nice for lighter loads and for the grass. And we used that True Temper as well as a neighbor's Cobalt for moving the rock. And in the end, we had one little piece of sod left. Everything else fit together perfectly. That's all that's left over.
Broken lines, broken strings, broken threads and broken springs, broken autos, broken heads, people sleeping in broken beds. Ain't no use jiving, ain't no use joking. Everything is broken. The streets are filled with broken hearts, broken words never meant to be spoken. Everything is broken. Solo. It's a solo. It's a solo. Seems like every time you stop and turn around, something else has just hit the ground. Now, broken cutters and broken saws, broken buckles, broken laws, broken bodies, broken bonds, broken voices on broken phones. Take a deep breath, feel like you're choking. Everything is broken. It's a solo. Another solo. Every time you leave and go out someplace, things go to pieces in your face. Now, broken hands on broken plows, broken treaties and broken vows, broken pipes, broken tools, people bending and broken rules. Now, hound dog howling, both broken. Everything is broken.
To the Harlem River to drown.